What would I do if I were getting started today as a graphic designer? Hey everybody, this is Roberto Blake of robertoblake.com, helping you create something awesome today. Welcome to another graphic design video. I'm going to help you become a better graphic designer, and I want to start with the very beginning. I want to start with what I would do today if I was trying to become a graphic designer, if I was starting completely over. I'm 20, 25, going back in time a couple of years. What would I do to begin my career? Let's go ahead and set the groundwork for this. Let's assume for 1 minute that maybe I've just graduated from a middle of nowhere graphic design school in my local community. It's not a bad college. Let's assume that I got a 4-year bachelor's degree in graphic design, no minor, and no major electives to speak of. Assuming that I didn't freelance throughout college, which I highly recommend. Assuming that I had one unpaid internship and that's it. What would I do to jumpstart my career in the first year having graduated from college if I have no jobs lined up? I think the first thing that I would do in that situation is if I've left school and I don't have a job lined up, the first thing I would do is if I were allowed to, I would go ahead and I would literally move back home, and I don't think there's any shame in that. I know there's a social stigma that's very much against that, but from a practicality standpoint, I've always believed that it's practical for people to do that until they're ready to move to a place that they want to work for most of their career or the rest of their life and move away to that location if it's different. I've also always believed that until you're ready to start a family, get married, and have kids, that you should save as much money as possible and put that into like a mutual fund that is bearing interest instead of spending like $600, $800, $1,200 a month on rent under the guise of being independent. I think the fiscally responsible thing to do is to be putting aside that almost $1,000 a month in an interest-bearing account until you're ready to make that decision and then move on. So I think that that's practicality. But in the event that, let's say, you either move home or you figure out an apartment situation with a roommate and you're splitting the difference there, let's just assume that it's the latter for the sake of argument. You have to immediately start making cash flow, and you may or may not be able to leverage your degree to start a job in the graphic design industry because all you have is a degree and a student portfolio, which for most employers, myself included, isn't really anything that we're super impressed for. I've never asked anybody for their degree or their GPA before making a hiring decision, and student work usually hasn't been enough to move the needle for me to convince me that I need to put my business in your hands. Sorry, that's just the truth. And that was true not only with me now as an entrepreneur who's hiring, but also when I was a marketing manager in corporate America and when I worked at an ad agency and we had to hire freelancers or when we had to hire new people. That wasn't going to get it done. So you need something beyond your student work. You need to build a real portfolio, which means that when you're not working the part-time job or the non-related industry job that you'll have to get right out of college if you don't have anything lined up in order to make ends meet, then what I would do is I would be freelancing on the side. And if I didn't have any way to convince someone to hire me even for a few bucks, here are the things that I would do. 1, I would not go to Fiverr. Forget that. I've done entire rants on that. No, you do not go to Fiverr. Period. End of story. I am not opening that one up for debate. Nope. Now, what you could do instead is the following. In addition to trying to hustle for freelance clients on your own in the local market and on the internet and in social media, you could also take working gigs in Upwork or apply to contest in 99 Designs. Many designers feel controversial about that. When you're a college student or a college graduate and, or you're couch surfing and eating ramen, I think that you try everything that's practical and that makes you a decent amount of money. I don't think Fiverr is it for a lot of reasons. I think you're better off trying to build your portfolio in 99 Designs and do contest because even if you don't get hired off of that by winning the contest, it's still in your body of work, and it's usually simple enough stuff to where you can be doing this every day, every week, and at the end of it, you've got a portfolio. So that could actually be a really good portfolio, good enough to get actual client work. By applying in Upwork, well, those are gigs for which people are paying some money, probably decent money, and you can set your own rates there as a freelancer. You can put up some work even if it's the work that you've been doing for these contests that didn't work out, that you felt were good enough, you can go ahead and you can put that up there, and then that gives you an edge because you're constantly uploading, constantly beefing up your portfolio, which may help you break out and help you stand out. The other thing you can do is, and what I would do, is you build your own website and you build a blog and you start actually detailing the projects that you're working on, especially self-initiated work. I would start doing conceptual, self-initiated projects that relate to the industry I want to work in. Let's say that I wanted desperately to work for an ad agency. I would look up the 5 or 10 best agencies in my area. I would look at the campaigns they're doing, and I would look at the branding assets they had to do for those campaigns. If that meant Photoshop key artwork, I would start doing personal projects or doing contests for 99 Designs where I use a style that's similar to what the agency does and try to emulate the aesthetic of those campaigns so that in my portfolio, if I go and I show up to the interview, they're like, oh, that's the kind of thing that we like. That's the kind of thing that we do for clients, and then you'll fit right in. That's what I would be doing. So I would look at that if I was trying to work at an agency like that. I would look at the portfolios. I would try to find out who as designers work at that agency. I would look at what their website looks like because that's what's representing them. That might be what got them hired. And I would say, okay, cool. How do I make my website as good, if not better than that? What information did they include about their background? What didn't they include? How did they present themselves? I would look at what a quote unquote winner in my industry and in my area or wherever I want to work looks like. And then I would analyze, I would study that, and I wouldn't copy them. I would say, these are the rules. This is what a winner looks like. It's just like if you were looking at a championship athlete. You would start to look at what's their workout regime look like? What's their weight? What's their workout style? What products are they using? What brands did they decide to invest in for all their equipment, and so on and so forth? You would mimic and emulate that success. You should do the same thing as a designer, as a creative, as an artist. You should say, okay, well, what did they include in their information? What was in their presentation? Like if you can find things that show them in the real world and how they communicate and how they express themselves and how they explain their work. What does their blog look like? You should start to think about those things, and you should start to recognize the patterns and say, well, in my own words and in my own style, what might that look like? And then I would do that, because when you're trying to win an agency contract or when you're trying to win over an employer, thinking about what they've already said yes to probably matters. While trying to find that local gig with an agency, I would continue to build my personal brand online, and I would continue to try to attract clients in social media for one-off gigs. If I feel like I have something that I could do for a small book author, I would try and pitch them. If it's a small entrepreneur, I would try and pitch them. If it's a startup, I would try and pitch them. I would also get involved with the local business community. I would go to the Small Business Association, and I would take the business cards of everybody who's displayed their business card with the Small Business Association. I'd also leave a stack of mine there, and I would go to their website, I would go to their social media, I would engage with them, and then I would hit them up and I would talk to them about what I can do to help their brand and help their business and improve their design aesthetic. I would talk to them about that. I would give them free advice. I would even sometimes offer to do a gig for free. I know people are against that, but you need to build a relationship and get in the door. And sometimes you need to prove yourself to people. Sometimes you don't have enough work in your portfolio when you're just getting started to prove it enough to ask for something. But if you deliver and you do stuff for one person, you can then go ahead and you have the permission in the relationship to ask for something, because believe it or not, free work sometimes is a test. And while a lot of people won't tell you, because as employers, as people who hire freelancers, we don't have to tell you this, is that here's the honest truth. Most of us have someone we can go to and hire already that we know, like, and trust. We already know where to find people to do what we need to get done. If we're going to take a chance on someone new, there are a couple of things. If we can find someone whose work is already what we like and what we have already paid for in the past in a platform like Upwork or 99 Designs, that's cheap. And we can go ahead and make that commitment easily without knowing them, liking, and trusting them, because we already see that they have exactly what we've already paid for somebody else before, and that's what we want, and it's affordable. If we don't want cheap and we want something really, really good, and that's not the consideration, sometimes if we're not going to go back to our trusted vendor or our trusted friend, if you're new and we don't have a relationship with you and you want to get in with us, doing work for free and being passionate and being an advocate of what we're doing, being a fan of ours and doing it for free because you love what we do or you want that relationship, you want that in, and seeing what you will do to build that relationship is very powerful, and it speaks to us because if you delivered for free something better than the last 3 things we paid for, that money can move over to you and we can justify that and we feel better about it. And again, nobody tells you this. And the thing is, there are plenty of designers who will rant and rail about spec work that do exactly that. And I know that for a fact because I've talked to people about this. So I would be building those small business relationships. I would be working with those startups. I would even look at startups and do work for free while all my friends and family laugh at me to get equity in the business, to get 1% of the business in case it goes big. There's a graffiti artist in California who did the graffiti for the Facebook offices and everyone laughed at him, and now he's laughing all the way to the bank. Couple of days work, has an interesting story for the rest of his life, and plenty of money to justify that decision. If it's getting hard to find graphic design work because you're new, understand that you're new to the marketplace, you haven't proven yourself yet, you don't have a network of contacts, you don't have the relationships, and you don't have the body of work yet. I would still keep doing work. I would still just create awesome every single day, doing the thing that I love and put myself in a position to win. I would keep studying great and successful graphic designers, or at least graphic designers who are making money doing what they love. And then I would start to continue to try and repeat the things that were successful for them and give it time. And eventually, I believe that that's what will work out for you because that's actually what I did and that's what worked out for me in the long term of my career, not only as a graphic designer, but in every other endeavor that I've ever done. That's more or less what my formula for success has always looked like. Now, I'm a creative entrepreneur. I own my own business. I have a very successful personal brand, and I'm actually launching 2 new ventures that I'm super excited about. So there are a lot of things that I've talked about and discussed here, and I think the core of it, if I'm going to summarize, comes down to this. Build a strong body of work, build contacts, really qualify what market you want, and then make sure that you're doing all the research necessary to win in that marketplace. Find mentors from afar, people to mimic the success of and to break down their process, their brand equity, their structure, and try and do things that fit that, but make it your own. Also, if you're gonna work for an agency, find things that they've already said yes to and make your portfolio as much of that as possible when you walk in the door. And also, from a cash flow standpoint, keep doing everything you can to make money doing what you love until it's sustainable. I think if you do those things, that you have a real shot at being successful as a creative professional, no matter what it is you want to do, graphic design, web design, motion graphics, animation, marketing. I think that you can win there if you take this advice to heart and if you stay persistent and you approach everything you're doing with patience, curiosity, and consistency, as well as confidence. I think that those are your variables of success. Anyway, I hope this video helped you guys. If you have questions or you'd like to tell stories about, your career as a graphic designer, go ahead and do that in the comments. I'm gonna be looking at those. I'd love to see some interesting conversations happen there. So let's make it happen. Like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out the other awesome content on the channel. As always, you guys, thanks so very much for watching. And don't forget, create something awesome today. Take care.